everyone, welcome once again to Gotham Discussions. I'm Captain Logan, and with me is Steve Baxi.
Hello.
And DanzNewz is back. Hi, Dan.
I have returned. We didn't mention 2 weeks ago that I wasn't going to be there the week after, and then last week I made you guys a liar when you said he'll be. Well, no, 2 weeks ago I guess you said he'd be back next week, and then the Spirit of the Goat I wasn't there still because of all these surprise trips that keep popping up.
Yeah, because you keep having to go on random trips. Well, that's a good problem to have. That's fun. So, how was your trip around the world in 80 days, Dan? How was that?
It was pretty fun. I was hoping to potentially, since I went to New York City and they were filming Gotham there, I was hoping to see something related to that show somewhere. I only saw they had like signs set up for blacklist and stuff like that. They were blocking off city blocks saying you can't park here during this time and this time. And I saw they even I don't know if they were filming, but they were lighting a building to be filmed one of the nights we were walking around. So it was pretty cool seeing stuff set up in New York City to film for TV. I was hoping to see Gotham though. That would have been cool.
That's awesome. So why don't we go ahead and just jump straight into stuff. Before we get to today's episode, Penguin's Umbrella, really big, obviously important episode in the mythology, knocking out a whole bunch of stuff we've been waiting to see finally happen. We'll talk about some things once again from last week's Spirit of the Goat and answer a few questions and comments from the audience. Darth Sandwich says Gotham translated means City of Goats, so Spirit of the Goat would mean Spirit of Gotham, which makes sense when you know what is the plan of the crazy hypnotist lady. I'm glad somebody mentioned that because I didn't know that. Steve, I'm a little surprised that you didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had no reason to translate the word Gotham.
I always just figured it was got ham.
Got ham.
Yeah, why not?
So I thought it was more so a pig thing.
And then somebody else also mentioned, and I might get to it here in a second, but somebody else also mentioned with the goat thing, because I was trying to figure out what maybe symbolically the whole point of the goat was, and somebody was like, well, goats are traditionally like a sacrificial animal, and so that makes perfect sense. I don't know why we didn't come up with that either, Steve, but I thought I'd throw that out there real quick. Red Leader Antilles, I don't think it would be bad to have this be Carmine Falcone's father. After all, there is a bit of a legacy there, or a legacy theme here, and I want them to reference Thomas saving Carmine's life in front of Bruce, which is an interesting plot point in Long Halloween. Somebody also was like, I don't think his name has been mentioned as Carmine, but it has, I think, multiple times. Yeah. So, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think they'll go there.
They also called him the Roman a couple of times.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so this is definitely comic book Carmine Falcone. I think we have had reservations about that just because it looks like it looked like he might get killed off and stuff. After this episode, I feel like the direction I thought things were going is very different. Which is cool. I mean, I'm glad it's blindsided me a little bit because I thought that the way they were playing it was I kept talking about that whole like out with the old, in with the new kind of thing, and this episode made me think that Falcone's got like a whole plan we don't even know about, and I was pretty excited to see that.
I was picking up on that a little bit. I think it was the Viper episode when Mooney's girl started to pick up on him with the singing the opera in the park or whatever. Was that Viper or was that Spirit of the Goat?
That was
Viper.
The end of Viper. Yeah.
Okay. I the second that started happening, I was like, there's no way he's buying that this is that coincidental. Like, I kind of started to feel that maybe he was a little bit more, either that or he was the dumbest guy in the world to think, oh, there's this random attractive young girl walking by singing the exact same favorite song that my mother sang to me. Like, I was just like, he can't be that dumb. So I figured there was something going on, but not to the extent at the end of this episode.
The problem, of course, is that either way you slice it, somebody is kind of a moron. I mean, like, the more I thought about this, it's like, okay, well, so he's smart enough to pick up on it, and it looks like he's got a pretty good sense of what the entire plot is. Now that at the end of this episode, we know that he knew the entire time that because of Penguin snitching to him that Fish has been playing him. I'm like, and that she wants to take over. I'm like, oh, okay, so if the reason that he's just kind of watching the girl cook and stuff is because he knows why she's there, this makes Fish look really stupid.
Definitely.
Well, she's also really impatient, so I can buy that she wouldn't think far enough ahead and Falcone would figure it out before she could do anything about it, so.
Sorry, I lost my place here. Okay, Nicholas Perry. Here's my hope: the writers on this show realize how much everyone hates Barbara. Then they'll kill her off. Gordon meets a nice redheaded girl, like a commentator on the previous Gotham discussion suggested, and they name their first daughter Barbara in honor of his long dead girlfriend. A lot of people are suggesting things like that. I am sure that's not where they'll go. My hope continues to be just that they find some way to make that character more sympathetic and act more like a real person, and B, find a way to get the actress to come up to everybody else's game a little bit. And I'm sorry, I still feel that way. I feel like she is the one weak link. There's in today's episode, there's this fantastic scene, a 50% fantastic scene at the beginning with that henchman that is incredibly intimidating and is super creepy. And I loved his side of it, but everything she was doing, I was like, and I'm not saying this just to keep having fun bashing on her. It's really still not working for me at all. And I
don't think any of us want to keep bashing on her. We want to see it get good. Like that's it. Like, because the Viper episode, that's probably one of my favorite episodes of this series so far. Primarily because Barbara isn't even in it. The second she pops up in the beginning of the next episode, you live tweet the episodes, but I don't usually live tweet them, but I did kind of a little bit where I just went, Barbara, no, like in my tweet, just because I was like, the second she popped up, I was just like, it just goes straight back down, unfortunately. And then people thought I was tweeting out spoilers, like something had happened to her, and I was like, nothing happened to her. I just don't like Barbara.
Because if something had happened to her, you wouldn't have said, you would have said, yay!
Exactly.
It would have been very, damn fine cup of coffee. Cap, stop whatever you're doing and watch all 8 episodes of True Detective now. I've been getting that a lot from people lately. Watch True Detective.
I've heard good things about it.
So I will try to do that soon.
Amazing. It's incredible. It's so incredible that I can't properly express it without expletives on the channel, and that's not allowed. So
Steve said that he can't do a show on it because it just goes over his head too much.
Pretty much, yeah. I need to sit down with a thesaurus and a couple of philosophical texts before I'm prepared to even remotely talk about an episode sometimes.
Barry Allen. Probably not the real Barry Allen. Barry Allen, I think everything after episode 6 changes with Gordon's refusal to kill Penguin on the orders of Falcone controlling the mayor and likely the police force. He will start to become his journey, I guess, start his journey to rise up the ranks and fight corruption in the city. And I guess that's kind of where they're going, except that he is... Because we get to the end of this and we have obviously a massive status quo shift, but the shift now is kind of like Falcone is just keeping him alive because Penguin wants him to, and so he is very much within the web of everything Penguin's doing now. I'm really interested in all of that because that comment suggests that whatever they did in this episode, it would get to where Gordon would now more easily be able to change things, and I think he's going to think that, but that ain't going to be the case.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't know about this whole Thomas Wayne saving Carmine Falcone thing, Steve.
Yeah. Essentially, I believe it's Long Halloween where it happens, where
okay.
Falcone
I haven't read that in a long time.
Shot or wounded, something like that, and his father comes to Thomas Wayne to save his life, and Bruce is talking to Alfred because during Long Halloween, Carmine's kind of the biggest crime boss in Gotham, and Bruce constantly wonders whether or not his dad should have just let Carmine die that night, and then Alfred reassures him that his father would save anyone that asks for help. And that plays a lot into Bruce's philosophy of not killing people.
Spartan Knight 67, I think Bruce will find out that his parents, while wanting to do good, compromised on their ethics and let something happen that was not ethical. This would give Bruce a reason to stick to a strict code and never compromise when he becomes Batman. Maybe so. I'm still with whoever it was last week that said, yeah, Cap, I think you're wrong, that the Waynes probably weren't just as corrupt. They're just kind of roped into the system and they try to change things. I think you're spot on there. Nathan Hickman, with all these insane murders / vigilantes who use fear, it's a lot more believable that Batman would be a feared icon or an urban legend. The only issue I have with that is that with so many of them beforehand, it might also just as easily be he shows up and everybody's like, okay, just another one of these. what what do you guys think? I mean, like, if we have too many like shadowy vigilantes before we get Batman, what instantly makes him special or makes people afraid of him just because of the costume? I mean, I like the whole spirit of the goat thing, but then I kind of thought about that.
I think you would need something that's really counter to what we've seen. Like in the comics, Gotham City used to belong to Alan Scott Green Lantern before everything went on a much darker path and he left the city and then Batman showed up because it became a different animal. I think if we get a vigilante that's like Green Lantern level of super optimistic, something Superman-esque, it might be warranted to discuss why we need Batman over everything else. But if we're just going to keep doing like these really dark and gritty vigilantes, I don't think it's going to work.
I think I had a question from someone over email. Okay, so unfortunately, I wrote down this question, but I did not write down who sent it. Sorry about that. But here was the question. Dear Captain Logan, with the spirit of the goat and the balloonman as vigilantes in the show, how do you suppose the writers will use them to influence Bruce into his intended future? This goes right along with what we were just talking about. Do you also think the writers will borrow source material from the Burton films, Nolan films, and Arkham game franchise? They already are. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's really just the question. I don't know yet. But I do think that we already are seeing a little bit of influence on them, like on Bruce, from especially the Balloon Men, right?
Yeah, he had already kind of realized that it was, killing people was the wrong way to go.
But that you need something.
That episode.
But that at the same time you need something outside the law because the law's not getting the job done because it's too corrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also just last week we had Bruce commenting on how a goat isn't a good enough totem to protect the city, so he's already kind of developing that idea.
Well, guys, let's go ahead and go on to today's episode of Penguin's Umbrella. Once again, as always, I like to comment on episode titles. Love this title, not just because Penguin's Umbrella is obviously a big, iconic, obvious kind of staple for the character. But I'm starting to dig some of the symbols that they're using in the show, and the umbrella is really interesting because at the beginning of the show, in the first episode, Penguin has to use his umbrella to keep the rain off of fish, and we're starting to see this kind of motif forming of his whole kind of strategy is to let himself get rained on until he's the one that can do the raining. And I'm really digging the way that's playing out. And so then at the end of this episode, because he's starting to hold an umbrella for himself now, and you get to the end of this episode, and I mean, we have to make it rain constantly in the city to do this motif. But when we get to the end of the episode, he's holding his umbrella not just over Falcone, but over the both of them, implying that he's trying to manipulate Falcone into kind of seeing them as partners until ultimately he can take over him too. And I just like this kind of this idea of Penguin's kind of, to mix metaphors, tentacles sprawling. He's got this umbrella going over everything right now, and I don't know, that symbol's working really well for me.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that as well as you just described it, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's definitely very interesting.
Yeah, and also like black umbrellas being like bad omens and signs like that. So Penguin initially being the person who holds up the umbrella, but it's still foreboding because he's the one that's going to take them out later, that he's signing their death warrant by holding an umbrella over them. Yeah,
this show's doing a lot with superstitions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense because of the old obvious Batman adage of villains are superstitious and cowardly a lot, right? We've got a lot of stuff with superstitions. We've got a lot of stuff with cowards, especially in this episode with the whole chicken motif. So yeah, hey Steve, start us someplace. What was something you thought this episode did really well?
I got quite a bit of notes on what it did well, but I think since we're already talking about Penguin, maybe we should jump into that scene where he kills, I believe his name is Carbone, something like that?
Yeah,
with the knife, and he's talking about how you can kill a person by knowing what they love, and then when he finally dies, he says something along the lines of love conquers all, and kisses him on the head, and that kill is almost really ritualistic for him, and it definitely brings up that point we mentioned before, that Penguin knows about everything, and that he's able to pick up on all the little minutiae of these characters and able to pay off these guys as guards so he can get his way. Like, he talks a lot about being clever, and people call him clever, but now we're finally seeing him be clever, and it does something, and it's pretty terrifying.
I like that scene a lot. I think it also plays in a little bit to the idea that they're talking about at the end in the scene with Falcone and Gordon, of people with nothing to lose, because Penguin is one of those characters. Penguin, this entire time, has been a character with really nothing to lose. And I think that's a lot of why he's been willing to put himself on the line so many times, is that, like, he's either going to get everything or he's going to die. And he'd rather take over everything, but he's he's willing to keep taking those crazy risks. And so he, just like Falcone does with Gordon at the end, is able to constantly find what it is that people have to lose. And it's almost as if it's easier to do that if you personally don't have anything. Like, you can find people's weaknesses if you don't really have any. And it's making him incredibly intimidating and menacing, because Penguin doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses right now. I mean, he screws up sometimes, but he doesn't have any weakness in the sense of what could you take away from him?
Yeah. Well, even through his screw-ups, he still succeeds. Like, it almost seems like he intends on, I can't remember. I don't know. It was this episode at the beginning where the henchman Butch was talking to Gordon. He said, "You have to earn your lumps." I think Penguin understands that he has to, earn his lumps in order to climb further up the chain. Like, I think last episode or the episode before that, where he had messed up and slipped about, well, it didn't even slip. He intentionally told him that he worked for Mooney and stuff like that. And then that whole debacle happened with Gordon getting brought over and him potentially, both of them being in jeopardy. So I think he understands that, he's going to have to put himself in that, like you said, nothing to lose and stuff like that. I think we're all overlooking his biggest weakness, his affinity for sandwiches.
That's true. That's true. All you have to do is lure him in with people he could kill that have sandwiches.
Yeah.
Because that's just too much fun for him. You're right.
I think the Maroney's henchman guy, I think he had a sandwich in his pocket. That's why he killed him.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Pretty sure.
I think also we should add to the equation his mother, because clearly he's got a very interesting relationship with her, and he seems to be able to confess with her and talk with her in a way that we don't usually see. So I wonder if she does end up being his greatest weakness or not, because he's already paralleling Gordon a lot, and his weakness being Barbara, and the show's weakness being Barbara. So it's going to be interesting if maybe we put his mother in danger and see what happens, or if anyone even knows she exists.
Well, we know that we know that Alan and Montoya know she exists, because they had a conversation with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe like Falcone or such, or maybe Falcone gets wind of the fact that Penguin's probably trying to subvert him, and he uses his mother's hostage or something like that. Because Falcone's definitely got a lot of that mother-father kind of motif going in his character already.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how she figures into all of that.
I am curious about that too, because obviously she's got to have a lot to do with why he's so strange and kind of demented and stuff. Yeah. Because she's quite messed up too, and we don't really know a lot about all that. It's kind of a mystery, and I'm still confused by the Koppelput thing. I can't get past that. I don't understand that.
Well,
but anyway,
like that scene with him in the bathtub just seemed a little bit too much motherly love sort of deal. Like maybe there was, it just seems kind of creepy the way they were going with that a little bit, because she was like reaching in the tub and like touching him and stuff and touching his arm. But also, like, this has nothing to do with what we were just talking about somewhat, but like the camera loves him staring menacingly straight ahead into the camera.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? That is its favorite thing.
You can make a compilation of just those shots. Like, there's so many shots. I think the shot in the tub was a little, like, because he has developed this face to just stare into the camera. I think that was his weakest one, because I remember looking at it, I was like, it looks like he's trying to look in the camera and look menacing for that one shot, but generally it works for me.
Every time he's in the bathtub, he's just imagining a camera looking at him, and he's like, camera.
I think he gets filled with the self-satisfaction that he thinks he's the smartest person around. So it's just like the camera happens to catch him head on when that happens.
May I suggest that maybe there is a reason for the repetition of that shot, and that it may have, I don't want to call it fourth wall breaking, but almost the sense of he's the one character that we keep almost getting into his head. What I mean is, it's the Penguin's world, and we're all just living in it right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long the show will sustain that, but I think that's kind of interesting. Some folks have been kind of perplexed by, and I count myself among them, how in the world Penguin always knows where Gordon is. And given that by the end of this episode we know that he went to Gordon on purpose, banking that Gordon would save his life, and that it's very important to him for some reason that Falcone keep him alive, that he's not done with him, I think it is likely now that the show may actually explain that to us, because people have been saying, well, how did he know where Gordon lived? How did he know exactly what was happening in the police station at the moment he made that dramatic entrance? All that kind of stuff. I don't know that it's just drama for the sake of drama. I think it is possible that the show actually reveals that to us at this point.
I'm not sure how much I take stock in that the show is smart enough to tell us all of that, but I do agree that Penguin has got this really fascinating relationship with Gordon, almost like he's Gordon's Joker, and they're playing the character quite a bit like Joker, and there's already a fan theory online this Penguin is actually Joker, and I don't believe that very much.
I hope not.
But he's got that going on in the sense that Penguin's the one, like the Joker, that understand how the entire world works, and that's why no one can understand him, and that's why people think he's crazy, because he's able to see the big picture in a way everyone else can't.
They've also got that creating each other thing going on, right?
Yeah, I wonder if Gordon survived simply because Penguin can't see himself without him, because the honest man is what makes the city what it is.
I'm just wondering if Penguin doesn't somehow have some kind of device that's allowing him to know where Gordon is all the time, like he's following him or something. I don't know what that would be or how in the world he would have gotten his hands on anything like that, but I don't know. I'm just wondering that because right after, once again, he just shows up and knows where Gordon is.
Well, I mean, it kind of, in this episode, this was the episode where he killed Marnie's guy, right? I'm sorry, I watched 3 in a row, so it was it was this episode?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I know, it's a great memory. So we saw that he had paid, he had found out, that guy's weakness, paid his henchmen. Maybe he could just simply be paying somebody to follow him, keep tabs on him. I mean, send him texts, he is here. That could be just something as simple as that.
I just think the show might turn out to be smarter about that stuff than I thought it was, because it didn't occur to me that, I knew he was using Gordon, but it didn't occur to me that he would have more plans for Gordon in the long term beyond what he's done so far. How did you guys feel about the flashback and what we learned from him? Do you guys buy? And after the second time I watched it, I am more with it than I was in the first place. But do you guys buy that he would have thought of, hey, Gordon will spare me because he's got a conscience? Did he even know enough about Gordon to make that call yet?
I don't know. See, I took issue more so with how easily Falcone went with it. I just felt like it's he didn't seem to trust him because he was a snitch, but then he's like, wait, no, let me do this guy so he'll spare me and then I'll come back and be your snitch. I mean, it's the same principle. He's a snitch. He's not somebody who's trustworthy.
At the same time,
don't know why he would keep...
But what's interesting about Falcone is, have you noticed that he says yes to everything? And I'm not saying that as a joke. I think there's a tactic there. If you go back and look at it in the last the last 7 episodes, every episode we've had, no one has ever made a suggestion that Falcone has dismissed out of hand.
Outside of the whole Mooney, he says no to Mooney constantly, but about specifically the Penguin stuff.
But I think that's important, right? I think that's because he knows what's going on with her. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. But everything else, with people that he thinks he could control, not trust, but people that he thinks that he actually can kind of control, he tends to say yes to things. Were you not surprised that he said yes to the apparently completely useless plot of land? Why did he take that? I don't know. Falcone is suddenly the most interesting character in the show. Besides Peng, but in a way where it's just he keeps doing stuff. I don't know what he's doing with the chickens. I don't know if it was just a symbolic thing. I don't know if it's just There's a bok chickens. Yeah, we get it. Penguin's a snitch and pretending to be a coward. We get it. But why was he really messing around with chickens the whole episode? Is that going to turn into something that's part of his master plan? I don't know.
I think it's fascinating that with as much time as we spent with Barbara and as much time as we spent with Falcone, like Falcone in the pilot, all of us, our favorite scene was the Falcone scene.
Yeah.
Like, he was on screen for like 2 minutes and that was it.
Yeah.
He's had the least screen time out of everybody. He's probably had as much screen time as the mayor has had. And he is like just one of the most fascinating characters on the show. So it's really weird. I don't know if it's acting or if it's the writing or well, it's definitely a combination of the both at least. But it's just the presence the guy has is really great.
He's turning into the smoking man, right? Where just every time he's on screen, you're like, yeah.
Back in the corners. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, about that whole reveal at the end with the flashback.
Yeah.
My concern at this point is we're being really mysterious about all that, and it's really cool, but it almost feels like we're kind of building a house of cards. How much more of this can we get before the final revelations become a bit absurd?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, like one of my things here is Penguin tells him his plan of, well, give Gordon to kill me, and I'm sure he won't do it, and I'll survive, and I'll come back to the city, and I'll work my way up Maroni, and I'll snitch for you. And then Falcone is saying, sure, almost like as there's no way that's going to work. And then it works,
that's a good point.
And he trusts him. He snitches to the cops on Fish. He snitches on Maroni. He's able to convert Gordon and survive and make it back. I don't know why Falcone isn't considering this guy too dangerous, and I don't know why even the actor, he's not playing it as if he's in disbelief of this guy's skills.
And what's interesting is that
it feels a little too convoluted.
Yeah, I can see that. And what's interesting is you're right. In the scene, Falcone doesn't seem to really distrust him, although I think maybe he just has a really good poker face, because I wasn't sure that he knew about Fish either, and then it turns out that he does. So I think you might be jumping the gun saying that he trusts Penguin. I feel like everything that he says tends to be what he thinks a person needs to hear in a scene. I don't know because you look at Penguin, and anytime Falcone's not making direct eye contact with him, he's got a scowl on his face. Like, I hate this guy, I'm going to take him out. And whenever you see Falcone, he's not doing that behind his back. Now, is it because he really does trust him, or is it because the thing is, I thought a couple episodes ago he was dumb for buying into the chick who was humming his favorite song, and then he wasn't buying that either. So I don't know. I don't want to put anything past this guy right now.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying we need to answer at some point sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to build too much, because it's already getting a lot to keep track of. And I mean, I love the mob faction stuff, but the mob faction stuff only works so well, and I mean, it's a Slade from Arrow thing of that mystery is fantastic halfway through the season, then we get to the finale and it all feels completely convoluted. And I don't want this show
and really contrived and
not
just convoluted, but also really afterthoughty. Like, you didn't really have it planned out. You did, because there are some things you can write as you go. When you have a character-driven story where it's not about a mystery, you can more just write as you go. When it's a character did a bunch of stuff in the past, there's a certain degree of that you can get away with if things fit together, but you only to a degree. After a while, it's going to start looking like a person is this brilliant master planner who came up with all these things, like did a thing and knew that like 25 steps ahead. Well, that's really easy to write when you go back retroactively and say, oh yeah, they had it figured out all along. So like, here's the thing. So far with Penguin, I am buying it okay and surprised that I am, Steve. I'm with you, a little convoluted, but convoluted does not mean does not make sense. You see what I'm saying?
Fair.
And so
it's just a matter of you can only do so much before it.
I don't know if they can go much further. Like anything he does from now on, I want, or at least, if he has. If he's got a master plan right now, I want it to be a new one that just kind of started just now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to be so much, but it probably won't be like that. Because we talked about how when he says, like, river of blood in the streets and all of that, he's telegraphing thing I'm gonna cause, probably. So, obviously he has big plans, but what I mean is, I don't want to go back and find out that he even snitched on purpose, knowing that he would, like in the first place, knowing that he would get put in a situation where Falcone would want to kill him, and then he could go. That's too much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that had to have been a mistake, and then the master plan came because of the mistake, and I came out of desperation, and that I like a lot. If that's what happened, he's just a big thinker. But yeah, so I don't know. Finding out what all happened in the past. At first, I kind of like with that flashback. At first, I resisted it a little bit, just because I have a gut reaction sometimes to flashbacks. And at first, I had to make myself. I had to go through everything and go, okay, was there any reason we couldn't have known all this before? And yeah, there's a lot of scenes that wouldn't have played the way they did if we had that information. So I think this was the place to give it to us. But I'm glad it wasn't 10 episodes after this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's bad the way the reveal's handled. It's just a matter of, I actually have to take a step back from the episode to make all of this kind of work and make sense. And I don't want them to do these kinds of reveals constantly, because it loses me a little bit. Because, it's cool when all this stuff gets built up, and it's really cool to get Penguin to be such a cool master manipulator, and I love Falcone. It's just a matter of, there's a degree of relatability or viability or whatever the word would be for that, that the episode keeps losing. And I don't know if I trust the show nearly enough to say that you can do whatever you want. I know it's going to make sense in the end.
I don't yet. Yeah. And a show that's all
bad.
about.
It's just I don't want this to be a sign of things to come.
Well, and a show that's all about manipulation and whether or not you can trust people and things, I think is automatically asking you to not give it the benefit of the doubt in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like this kind of fourth wall breaking thing of well, if you're gonna make a show about how I can't trust it, about nobody can trust anybody, I can't entirely trust your show. Like
I was about to say that. It was like, it's literally like, nobody should trust anybody in this city. Like that's what the show should be called.
Yeah, that's what we want.
There's no way that I can watch Falcone and Penguin sit here, both these kind of like mastermind manipulators. Like I there's no way neither of them know, or either of them can't know to trust each other, if that came out right. But like, it just makes sense to me that either of them trust each other the entire time. Do you know? I guess Falcone and Maroni kind of have this relationship a little bit, but in Deep Space Nine, the Cardassian guy, the Taylor dude.
Oh, I'm sorry, Garrick.
Garrick. I love the relationship between like Garrick and Sisko and Garrick and Bashir. Like, I just like that. Like, he's obviously a spy. He's very clearly a spy, but they all have this mutual respect and kind of back and forth and stuff like that. I'd wish almost kind of like a relationship like that with Falcone and Penguin, where it's like very clear that neither of them can trust each other, but they're kind of working with each other for different gains, for both their own gains. But it just feels like and Penguin thinks that Falcone trusts him, but maybe he doesn't. I don't. It's just like, we
don't quite know yet. Is the deal?
Yeah.
What we're looking at right now is a relationship, and you're seeing this with a lot of people. You're seeing it with naturally with Maroni and with Falcone. Reminds me a little bit of the TOS episode, A Piece of the Action, if we're gonna go to Star Trek. Mm-hmm. But you know, with that relationship with a lot of people of each party in a dual relationship trying to make the other one think that the relationship is a certain kind of thing that it isn't. And what gets complicated is when each of them is trying to make the other one think that it's a different thing, then the other one is trying to make the other one think that it is, and then the audience simply doesn't have internal monologue because we're watching a TV show, so we just don't know yet. With some of it, some of it's a little bit more evident than than other things. One of the things I really latched onto was the idea of in this city. Maroni has this line at the end, which I think really pulls a lot of thematic stuff together when he says that that an honest man is really dangerous. There's nothing more dangerous than an honest man, and I think that's really interesting because what Penguin has been able to build so far could not have happened without Gordon. If only Gordon hadn't showed up when he did and made it so evident that he wanted to create a more lawful and orderly society, Penguin couldn't have done any of the stuff that he did. And so then we go back to those Batman motifs of, by trying to create order, he accidentally creates more chaos. And I like that I like that line a lot.
Yeah, that's written down.
That's
one of my favorite lines.
That's a line that's kind of been reflected throughout the entire season so far. Constantly is that there is nothing more dangerous than an honest man.
Steve, I want to know what you think of Montoya and I always forget Alan's name. I'm going to start just calling him Chris Bex. That's his name now. He's Officer Chris Bex. And
I thought they kept saying Christmas.
I thought that for a minute too, and I was Crispus. I'm like, he's Crispex. He's breakfast cereal now.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steve, because you've been like a big kind of critic of them and the way they've been handled this whole season. How did you feel about the way they handled that?
I feel like it was just as bad as it was before. It's just now they don't have much of a reason to be jerks. Like essentially what happens is Montoya says, I guess I was wrong and I was sort of jealous. Okay, sorry. And then they make up. But she was still a jerk and she still delivered that line really badly. And it still doesn't redeem anything she did.
I like Gordon's reaction to that too.
To take over the Wayne case. And Alan says nothing.
Yeah,
he has maybe 1 or 2 lines in 7 episodes.
Well,
and he's the main character.
So what's weird about Alan? First of all, is this is a really stupid minor thing, but I want to throw this out there because I thought it was funny. When he says, when Gordon says to Bruce, "You can trust them 100%," and then Chris Beck says, "Yeah, 100%," and I'm like. Is that really when you're the guy that he's saying can be trustworthy? Does that help the kid trust you more? I don't know about that.
Yes, trust the detective that got beat up by your butler.
That's what I was thinking. That's the thing. Is that like you look at their track record, and when he says they're excellent detectives, I'm like, based on what empirical evidence? What are you talking about?
Presumably they've been in the city in years and nothing has changed. I don't understand what Gordon meant by that.
I don't understand these characters and their place in the city. We've talked about this. It's still confusing. I don't know why Gordon, with the exception of my fiance used to date Montoya, I don't understand why he wouldn't, at the beginning of the show, immediately come to them and say, "You seem to be the only good cops in this city." Is he not idealistic enough and naive and wet enough behind the ears at the beginning of the season that he would do that? I don't know why he doesn't just go to them and say, "Okay, look, I did not kill anyone. I didn't do that," and keep it a secret, but I didn't do that. They seem to be the only people he could trust, even remotely, even though I think they're completely incompetent. But you see what I'm saying? I still can't figure out why he didn't do that and why they played it up like they were enemies early on, and I'm so glad that we're finally past that whole thing, because it never made any sense anyway.
Yeah. That and they're horrible detectives because it took them 5 episodes to find a homeless witness across to a different pier who's always there apparently, who has binoculars. Like, oh wait, there's a guy over there. Yeah, it's.
Steve, I've asked you this before and you didn't have an answer then, but I'm going to ask it again now. What am I missing? Okay, all right.
We're missing the fact that we're calling them characters and they aren't them. So.
No, I know that. Okay, all right. Well, I thought Gordon. I thought Alfred was hilarious. Yes. I thought that was great. And I think people have been waiting for him to do something really tough like that. Because you know, a lot of fans have been saying like he's probably the really military Gordon Alfred and that kind of thing. So I'm glad we got to finally see him do something like that. It's too bad that it's making characters that are some of the only people that Gordon can apparently trust seem really incompetent. But I wonder how they're going to play in the show after this. I'm assuming that by, like, the second or third season, Gordon has, like, his own task force or whatever, and, like, they're majorly a part of it, and I'm sure they're going to go the Gotham Central direction with all of that, but right now, I'm just sort of like, where do they fit in? And I still don't know how they haven't gotten popped off. Like, I just don't understand how cops like that operate in this city when Gordon can't.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I mean, they're linked to snitches. I don't understand why Falcone wouldn't have just killed them years ago, or Maroney years ago, or they wouldn't have just shot themselves in the foot because they're so incompetent.
Yeah. Well, anyway, moving on.
They only go after the good cops, clearly.
Yeah.
So moving on, Zaz was cool. I was pretty happy with him. I wonder if he'll become more deranged as time goes on, because this is the most lucid Zaz I've ever seen. But if he's going to be in the role that he's in, he's going to have to be a little bit more lucid. But I still loved how manic he was, and they still have given him his one recognizable motif of putting the tally marks in his arms, which, by the way, I can't watch that kind of thing. Like, when he started doing that, I just went, I was watching on my phone, and I just went.
But he looked like he was enjoying it so much. He was like,
Yeah, that made it worse, Dan. That's creepy.
I liked Zaz in this. He was a bit more like, button-up Zaz. Button-up, mob, working for the mob Zaz.
Yeah.
But, there were clear indications that it was kind of him behind the eyes. I would probably see him going crazier as time goes on, like you said.
I mean, I don't think he has his normal Zaz ideology yet, or what ideology is not the right word, but his psychosis. I mean, like, he obviously loves murdering people; it's his favorite thing. But I don't think that he doesn't have that thing where, like, he sees himself as doing people a favor by killing by relieving them of their horrible existence or whatever.
Yeah, he still feels a bit young. I don't think anything sent him over the deep end yet. Like in the comics, is that his parents died, and then he became like a terrible gambler and got into debt and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But he becomes the Zaz we know in the comics after a deal goes wrong with the Penguin. So maybe improve upon the Penguin, we can get those two maybe kind of complementing each other, or getting the crazier, more deranged Zaz. I also think it's funny that Zaz's defining feature in the comics is that he's got really big eyebrows, and this actor doesn't have any.
that made the giant eye thing kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was funny.
But I thought he was great. I really loved that moment when he's trying to get everybody to leave the police station, and he goes, "Please!" That was one of my favorite moments. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised those cops stayed in there as long as they did, considering it only took a please to get them to get out of there.
The fact that he can just tell them to leave and they do is really cool.
Yeah, and it's just really unnerving, right?
How corrupt the city is,
and how completely impotent the police department is.
Yeah. They are sheep at this point. So
goats, as it were.
As it were. Goats, as it were, yes. I like the scene before that, or, well, I guess kind of taking place during that with Gordon and the police chief, where she seemed very, like, she had told him earlier in the series, if you don't break the rules, or if you don't bend the rules, you'll break, or something like that.
Yeah.
And now she's kind of conveying to him that she wishes she could do good. She wishes that things could be the way he says, they should be. But she's kind of in the grip of fear with, the whole system being corrupt. And I liked that aspect of it. I also liked that she would be the one to stand behind him as well, because it's kind of giving her a little bit more going on other than just, being the person they report to. But I liked that she would stand up for him.
In that like 10-15 seconds, they made her like more of a real person than Montoya or Chris Baxi have been this entire.
Yeah, and all she had to say was, "I have a family." Like, I wish it could be that way.
And I think one of the things that helps, of course, is that actress seems to be a pretty decent actress.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, she's gotten some pretty good lines, and she definitely compliments Gordon better than Barbara. Not even in a romantic way, just in the sense that she relates to him more as a female character than any of the other female characters in this show.
She reminds me a little bit of the leader of the police department in Dexter.
Yeah.
Except that she doesn't seem to be quite as screwed up as that lady was.
Oh yeah, LaGuerta's like her own mini kind of like Falcone or Penguin. She's very manipulative throughout that show.
That's right.
She does some really bad things.
Yeah, I guess I just mean a little bit more in personality. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. She's definitely like she's a character that's kind of warm to most of the characters that are there. And Angel Maroni.
Yeah, I know. We keep going to Dexter a lot in this season. But in this series. Speaking of, I still love Maroni every time he's on screen, and I'm so excited that he keeps showing up. At this point, I mean, if we want to keep predicting deaths, at this point, I'm rooting for Falcone over Maroni, and he's such a hothead. Like, you get into that scene with Maroni and Falcone, and you can tell that Falcone's really sizing him up, and he's really calm. Like while I'm watching that scene, I'm like, okay, so you got one of these guys is manipulating the other one, and the other one thinks he's doing that, but he's really just like a firecracker. And I don't think Maroni. I don't know how he's in certain ways. I don't know how he's held on to things as long as he has. I think it's a difference between strength and intellect, where that guy has the firepower and the cojones, as it were, and Falcone's got the brains, and that's why Falcone's on top, because he's got more brains.
Well, that entire scene, it's just like Maroni's like, I got the upper hand, and then Falcone is just like, Like, I mean, that's what it really feels how it plays off. Like, it's like, yeah, I'll take that, garbage land that I was just told it's nothing. Sure.
I think I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Shoes. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and see the moment where Falcone finally does something really scary. It's gonna happen. Yeah. At some point, this happens, right? Yeah. And I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to it because nothing phases this guy. He's not scared of anything. And like when Fish says he knows something that we don't, I was like, yeah, he's got it all figured out. Now at the same time, Fish is starting to seem like really kind of stupid to me. I'm sorry, she seems kind of dumb because when she's like, he just watches her do laundry and things. It's like he knows something we don't. Oh, I don't know. Maybe like that she's a mole. Maybe that's the thing he knows. Has it occurred to you that maybe that's the thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Steve, what do you think of Fish right now?
About this during your live tweets, about how Nico and her are talking and walking away from him in the echoey warehouse. I thought the same exact thing.
Did you really?
I mean, because it's like so loud in there, and you can hear their voices echoing. It's like, we have to get rid of him soon. It's like, no, we wait. And it's just like, he's over there petting chickens. Why are you talking about this right now?
in this it's like they don't understand anything about acoustics.
And she works at a club.
I thought that was hilarious. Steve, where are you at on Fish right now?
I really liked her at first. I like the actress a lot. I like what she brings to it. It's just a matter of I don't want her ideas and her plans and her machinations to be undercut simply because we're doing more and more plot reveals and stuff. I think she had a particular path she was going on. Like, she had a plan, she had a system, and then this episode kind of writes her as that she's really dumb and she doesn't seem to get it. 2 or 3 episodes ago when she's grooming this girl, she seemed to be able to see the big picture of it.
Yeah, it was a long
And then
con.
the episode before this, it seemed like Maroni was able to see the big picture ahead of this. And this episode, to get Penguin and Falcone to seem like geniuses in the background, we make both of them seem like less than they are. And that kind of bugs me. I really like the scene between Falcone and Maroni together. Those 2 actors play that scene perfectly, and I love the controlling nature of one and the power of the other. But again, Maroni got to where he is for a reason. Fish got to where she is for a reason. And I don't want the plot to just simply make them dumb so we can make other characters seem intellectual and cooler.
Yeah, because I just want this show to be smarter than that, and prior to this, it kind of seemed like maybe it was.
It seems the show kind of leans on portraying characters as intelligent by having them have an ambiguous plan. And then
exactly.
That seems to be the recurring theme, where it's like, oh, Mooney's grooming this girl for what reason? Oh, I'm very intrigued. And then the next episode, it's like, oh, she's turning out to be completely useless. Okay,
and the problem with all of that is it starts. If we went back and watched it now, I mean, who knows? Looking ahead, but right now, if I went back and watched those couple episodes, I'd feel like it was stalling. And I didn't feel like that while I was watching it, but now that I know stuff, I'm like, oh, did we really need to spend 3 episodes setting that up?
And I saw that as good progression.
Me
at the
too.
time.
Yeah,
I was so happy with the progression.
Maybe with where it ultimately goes, we still will, except that if he's already seeing into it, then I don't know what the point was of us seeing every single piece of that, you know? Like,
I don't want to say this because I really like the past episodes, but the way the plot's pushing, it makes me wonder why this episode wasn't like episode 2 or 3. Because there's a lot in those other episodes that build up to this that just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. And as you said, it's got that in common a little bit with Arrow. Like, that show has had that problem sometimes.
Yeah, but it's almost to this point where I don't like previous episodes because of this episode.
Well, and like, I like the... don't get me wrong. I appreciate the world building and some good one and done stories. I think maybe honestly, what we might be getting at. Tell me if you guys agree with this. Maybe what we're getting at is that this show is actually a lot better so far at the one and done full story in 45 minutes than it is at the full blown. Overarching, like, ongoing story. Maybe it's still too early to say that, but my favorite episode still continues to be the Balloon Man, and having nothing to do with the overarching story, besides the Bruce Wayne stuff. So.
I have the same thing with Viper, because I would probably say Viper's my favorite episode so far of the series. And in like you said, that's kind of the one and done thing, but also it has the Bruce Wayne stuff that's kind of building throughout that episode.
Okay, so they're good at that. So they're good at the Bruce Wayne stuff.
That had the best Bruce Wayne stuff out of all the episodes for me, and I wasn't here for that discussions. So my favorite line from that episode was, "What's altruism?"
Yeah, I know. We love that too.
I laughed so hard at that line.
That's so bullying.
The delivery was amazing. He's just like, "What's altruism?" Anyway, I'm sorry. But yes, I definitely agree. The one and done episodes are definitely by far probably my favorites so far. Just like the ones that kind of continue on these threads, kind of like you guys have saying, kind of defeated the purpose of other threads that have been kind of going through.
Before we go to best moment, worst. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, sorry. If you want to move on.
No, if you had something to say, you're fine.
Oh, okay. It was just I don't want to rewrite the show, but it's coming to this point where I think this should just drop all of this criminal faction stuff, because I love it, but it's not. It doesn't seem like it's in good hands necessarily. And if we just did a procedural cop show, like every week there's a new murder mystery, and because the city is so corrupt, you can't rely on like technology to solve the crimes. You just have to do traditional detective stuff of people going on the street and figuring things out and piecing clues together. I think that could have gave the show, it kind of justify its own existence and make it something different and interesting. It doesn't necessarily have to do this big, overarching master manipulator plot that every show feels the need that they have to have now.
Well, and I'm starting to get numb to it. I mean, I think part of the problem is just that I'm watching so much stuff that it seems like everything has a master manipulator, and I'm starting. I don't know if I'm numb or getting savvier. I don't know which of those two things is happening. Because sometimes I feel the other way, where it's like I'm savvier to it, where I'm like, 5 years ago, I would have been impressed by this, but I know what you guys are doing, and I'm like you can't impress me with just look at all these things that this person has managed to do that we totally decided they could do in retrospect. I have one more reservation I want to throw out before we move on to best moment, worst moment, and that is, I'm not sure how much I buy Bullock suddenly changing his tune, or more to the point. Well. If it was going to happen, I wanted to see it happen not off screen. I thought that was a little sloppy. He shows up and he's drunk and he's like, "Yeah, I've decided I'm doomed anyhow," but nothing has changed. I mean, like earlier, you were ready to shoot Gordon and then go to Fish and or Falcone and beg for forgiveness. What has changed? Nothing. And so I guess it's just the more he thought about it. The thing is, if they had played it like he says that, but once again, it's a kind of thing of they might be doing a thing with that, but I don't want to read too far into it. What I want them to be doing with that is that he actually has a heart, which we kind of know a little bit from the GOAT episode. Like he actually has a heart. He really does agree with Gordon to a point in how he wants things to be. He wouldn't have the heart to kill Gordon, so he's changed his mind now. But I feel like I'm reading too far into it if I were to say that that's what it's doing, because I can't tell.
It all goes back to the problem that you had a couple episodes ago, where like these guys were really chummy for a few seconds, and their friendship is working too quickly. It's this thing, like at the very beginning of this episode, he's about to kill Gordon without any hesitation, and then things just shift in the other direction. He says, well, Gordon's got the moral high ground, so why not? But that's never mattered to him before. Like, what does he see in Gordon they didn't see anywhere else?
Yeah, I don't get that. Maybe
if it was that easy, why wasn't he working with Alan and Montoya?
Let me suggest this. What if, and again, I don't want to rewrite it, but what if the way that scene had played instead, because I feel like the episode, it's still the same episode, but the Bullock stuff is tighter and makes more sense. What if instead of having the contrived cops that walk by and then he turns around and then Gordon's able to grab his gun, what if instead of doing that, he had put his gun right up to Gordon's forehead and we had a really tense moment and then he just couldn't do it? Why couldn't we have done it like that? It would have been the same thing. Like ultimately, it would have gone the same. Yeah, it would have gone the same. It would have paid off the pilot because he says, I don't know if I have the stomach to do it, but I'll do it if I have to. And then we discover that no, he's human too. And that would, and also that'd be great in this episode because Penguin says that Gordon is the only one with a conscience, which is clearly not the case. So I don't know. I wish they had played that differently, and at the very least, we should have seen it happen on screen. I think. Well, let's go on to best moment, worst moment. Dan, what was your favorite moment this episode, sir?
I kind of liked, and this wasn't like a huge moment, but I liked the idea of when Jim was getting patched up by the vet or the rat lady or whatever she was.
Maybe Leslie Tompkins. I'm confused by that because IMDb has her listed as Leslie Tompkins, but I thought Inara from Firefly had gotten cast as Leslie Tompkins, so I don't understand that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she had. But I just liked the way they kind of turn things on its head for that scene, because typically, in mob movies or whatever, they have to go to a mob doctor and stuff like that. But she specifically says that you can't go to the hospital because the mob's, you're a fugitive from the mob. You can't go to the hospital. I just thought that was kind of interesting that generally it's the other way around but that's how corrupt Gotham is. Like the mob runs everything, so he can't go to the real hospital to get treated. He has to go into hiding for that thing. I just thought that was really interesting. That's best moment.
It was like Daredevil Night Nurse kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good call. Steve, what was yours?
I've got a funny one, then I got my serious one that I really liked. The funny one is when we get to that truck underneath and with the nuns stopping them, and
that was
the guy's
so
about
weird.
to kill them, or he's about to hurt them, and he says, well, "Why do you got to hurt us?" And they're like to say because it's serious. Well, we can tell him it's serious, and then he just shoots them both.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to bother. But then the actual one is Penguin killing Maroni's man and giving him that moment of that love conquers all, and you can kill a man based on what they love and stuff.
I'm really interested to see where they go with that whole love conquers all thing, and if that ends up showing us kind of what his weakness is. Like, because I wasn't thinking about his mother, and after you said that, I'm like, what is the farthest extent of that? Because he's using people's motivations, what they love the most, as like finding their weakness with that. But then when he says that it conquers all, you gotta want. Well, I mean, like his figuring out what theirs is helping him conquer them. But how does it work in the reverse? And like I'm kind of curious to see where that goes. Steve, I think I'm going to change mine and say that it's what you just said, because I think that is the best moment in the episode. I wrote down the Maroni and Falcone scene. I really liked that a lot, and for a second, it was Barbara leaving Gotham, but then she came back.
Yeah, stay away from Gotham.
Let's go to I applauded. Yeah, stay away from Gotham. One thing I really liked was, this is minor and is probably going to sound really silly, but I really liked that when we went to the bus stop or whatever, that you couldn't see beyond Gotham. Like I like this idea of Gotham kind of as like this sort of alien world that is cut off from the rest of civilization. We don't have any sense of what the rest of this universe looks like. I mean, like Gotham is really kind of this surreality, and I don't know. I started thinking a lot about what's beyond Gotham in that scene.
Well, outside of what we saw with Penguin before, where it was like seemingly like fields and empty farmland sort of deal.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just seems like there's nothing outside of Gotham.
Yeah, that's right. It's just in a bubble. It's Dan. It's the Hotel Royale from TNG. And,
Oh yeah.
let's So Dan and we're just gonna keep doing this. We're gonna find a Star Trek connection to everything in Gotham. Worst moment, Steve.
Worst moment for me was the reveal that Barbara was captured and Gordon's plan doesn't work. Because that was stupid.
Can I say in my notes? In my notes, I put "Damn it, Barbara." So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't have words for it. You know, like.
And look, you're about to die. Eat a muffin. Have a muffin.
I had to.
Maybe they're poison
camera.
muffins.
It's just that bad of a moment. Like. Okay, let me try. So Gordon sends her away because she is his weakness. Okay, she is his weakness. She knows why Gordon didn't tell her what was going on because he didn't want to kill Calipat, and she sees the consequences of that. And now she understands. She got what she wanted after nagging for 6 episodes. She got to figure out what would happen with Gordon. And now Gordon says, "Okay, I need you to leave so I can do what I need to do, and then I'll come back for you. Okay?" And then she's all like, I trust you, and all that stuff. And then she comes back and
To
ruins
plead
his
for him.
plan.
To plead for
Goes
him.
around with machine guns and Bullock, and he's got the mayor, and he's got Falcone, and then she just ruins it.
I thought it would have been really neat if the way they had played that was, and I thought this is where they were going for a minute, which is why I bring it up, where we think it's a bluff all the way up until it's not. I really resisted. We cut to her in the kitchen. I resisted that so hard, not just because I don't like her, but because they cut there, and then I went, okay, well that like all of the tension of that scene seeped out of it after that, because now I know what's going on. I want to be with Gordon in that. I want to not know. And so like when they bring her in, it's like, well, I know what they're gonna do now, and I mean, like, it would have been, even if he still like doesn't buy it's a bluff, and then she's brought in, it's still better if we don't see it until that happens.
It seemed like they were going for the kind of not double bluff, but the when Zaz is like, oh, that's a pity or whatever, it almost seems like he's gonna kill her and then he brings her out. I don't know. That's not how I read it, but I figured how they maybe were trying to do like a sort of like, oh, she might die, which would only be a good thing at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they keep putting her in peril in this episode, and I think they think that I care about that, and that that like I'm worried for her life, and I don't know. I mean, I feel the same way I did when I watched the remake of War of the Worlds, where I'm rooting for the aliens, man. Like, anyway, well, I think that was probably all of our worst moments. Yes.
Yeah.
Our worst moment. Quotes. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. I think my favorite line is Penguin when he says, "When you know what a man loves, you know what will kill him."
Dan.
For me, it was a tie between that and "There's nothing more dangerous than an honest man," because that's something, like I said, has been echoing throughout the series, and I like that line.
Yeah, that's so important. I threw that in there too. Also, condemned men or honest men, I think is important.
A return line, yeah.
Yep. And also, jolly fat men are so tiresome. I kind of like Fish says that, and then they're getting a lot of mileage out of Maroney has no book smarts. And
yes.
when Penguin says honk honk and everybody stops.
I forgot. I wish I had written that down. I forgot.
That got me. I laughed out loud when he goes. I laughed out loud when Penguin explained, because I didn't. Every time Penguin says something, I'm ready for someone to punch him in the stomach. It doesn't matter what he says. If he's with other people that are supposedly his superiors, I'm ready for him to say a thing that they see as too like superior and conceited, and he gets punched in the stomach. And that was a moment where I thought that was going to happen. And he says, "Oh, that's what ye say." And Maroney goes, "Oh yes, of course, honk honk."
Oh, I forgot, and I forgot, like, because we were kind of trying to somewhat keep track of Bullockisms.
Yes,
he had the line about
that's so Bullock.
Something about, I can't even remember, like a track dog on cocaine or something like that. I didn't write it down.
Something along the lines of like that plan sounds like a bunch of monkeys and you on cocaine came up with it. Something like that.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest to that. So I didn't actually write down a That's So Bullock this time, so we'll call that the That's So Bullock line.
Gordon had a fun one too, though.
What was that?
Gordon had a fun one too when he said, when the captain's like, "Are you insane?" and he's like, "No, maybe a little."
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Did you notice that Bullock, toward the end, when they're doing their whole kamikaze plan of arrest the most powerful people in the city, and Bullock is dressed up almost exactly like Bob from Batman '89?
No, I didn't notice that.
I didn't catch that.
He's wearing almost the exact same outfit. I don't know if that was intentional, but that was pretty great. You guys got any predictions or hopes? We've talked a lot about predictions and stuff, but
I hope.
I'm sorry, what? Barbara's not gonna die. You know that's not gonna happen.
Someone's just gonna take a gun to her head and she's gonna die, and it's gonna be great.
We had a chance to write her out of the series here for a pretty long time.
I know, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, why do we even have to elongate that scene of her getting on the bus if she's just gonna be back 20 minutes later, not accepting muffins?
Off screen and derailing the whole story.
I hope Jim is extremely mad at her after this.
He better be.
Well, he's never mad enough at her. I mean, like everything she does, he's just like, God, what's wrong with you? And then just like feels the need to keep getting back in her good graces and stuff. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know, man.
When she kind of does something that she would get angry at him for doing. Like,
yeah, there's this double standard with her, and as I keep saying, I'm a broken record with her, but I gotta say this one more time, and that's that. Every time she's on screen with him, it makes me like him less, and that sucks because I like him. So anyway, all right, Steve, do you have any other predictions that we didn't bring up? I think I've kind of exhausted mine, but
yeah. Maybe it would be cool if we got some more Alfred kind of fighting people or trading Bruce kind of stuff would be cool. But that's about it.
Well, now that he's kind of joining Bruce alongside, the investigation of Wayne Enterprises. I mean, it could lead to that eventually. Who knows?
Our penguin kill for today is, of course, the enforcer who doesn't pay his people enough. Was not anything fun and silly over sandwiches and stuff this time, but was an incredibly important and exciting scene. And now it's time for trivia questions, and we're going to start this time with, actually, I guess we should do the ones that we did last time. So, Steve, what was your question for last time, and what was the answer, sir?
Last time, it was Bullock appears in Doug Mank's run on Batman, and he shares a fairly close bond with a Robin. Which Robin is that? And it's Jason Todd. Him and Jason really get along because both of them like old movies.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Well, the first person who got that right was Boo Rat. Boo Rat's been getting a lot of questions right lately, so good job to you. Well done. My question from last time is, what is Penguin's middle name? And it is Chesterfield. And the first person who got that right was Aaron on email, so congratulations to you. And now we're going to do our trivia questions for today. Hey, Dan, do you have a trivia question?
I actually just came up with one right now.
Oh, boy, go right ahead. You're so prepared.
Harvey Bullock in the Batman the Animated Series is voiced by an actor who did a voice of a character in the video game Mafia 2. What character did he voice in Mafia 2?
Oh, that's a good. What character
also,
did he voice?
Gordon did a voice as well, the Commissioner Gordon. So that's a bonus answer to that trivia question to that. The Commissioner Gordon from Batman the Animated Series also did the voice of a character in there. What character was that?
Cool.
Steve, what is your question for this time, man?
Okay, this time since we had Victor Zsasz, my question is, how old was Victor Zsasz when his parents died and he went insane?
All right. And finally, my question is always from the episode is, what popular 1979 hit song is hysterically Victor Zsasz's ringtone? I lost it. And, this show is so quirky. As dark, as super dark as it gets, I love how insanely quirky. You can't put anything past it. It'll do anything. Holy Ghost on a bicycle. It will do anything.
I that came out of nowhere too. I put it in my notes as well, but I knew it was going to be your question, so I didn't bring it up. But that made me laugh out loud. That was pretty good.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I had a great time. And Dan, it's so glad to have you back.
Yay! I should be back next week.
Yeah! Yay!
Fingers crossed. I should be back. Yay!
thank you very much for watching. If you know the answer to any of or all three of our trivia questions, feel free to go to geekvolution.com, click on the contact page, and fill out the form there. Make sure that whatever name you put in there is what you'd like me to call you on camera, and I will mention everybody who gets the first correct answers for this show on next week's show. Can't wait for more Gotham. This is really exciting. The big thing that I can really say right now is I have no idea what happens after this, which is really kind of a nice place to be in, a nice feeling. I mean, like we had some predictions and things, but I mean, like, there's enough kind of mix up here that next episode could do all kinds of things to kind of throw us if it wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Well, anyway, thanks again, folks. Appreciate it. I am Captain Logan. This was Steve Baxi.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
And the incredible DanzNewz.
See you guys.